idea kandungan program yang lebih interaktif, segar, bervariasi serta mampu mencetuskan inspirasi kepada penonton.
Pengisian program berbentuk intelektual, didik hibur, santai serta menikmati.
Kandungan maklumat yang tepat dan relevan.
TV Channel.
Inspirasi,
Informatif,
relevan.
Bangsa dan اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من البراس والجنون والجذام ومن سيء الأسقام ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Amin amin ya rabbal alamin. Thanks to Mr. Muhammad Akif Fikri bin Sulaiman for the dua recitation. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, we have now come to our main agenda, which is panel discussion on the role of libraries as community connectors from United States and Malaysia perspective by Ms. Emily Drabinski, ALA President, and Dr. Ghazali bin Muhammad Fazil, PPM President. The discussion will be moderated by our moderator, Dr. Muhammad Faizal Hamzah. Allow me to read his bio. Dr. Muhammad Faizal Hamzah is currently working as a senior librarian at the University of Malaya, UM. He is also a part-time lecturer at the same university. His education began in 2006 when he completed his diploma at the University Technology Mara, UITM. He later pursued his bachelor's and master degrees at the same university in the year 2008 and 2011 respectively. In 2019, he managed to graduate on time with his Doctor of Philosophy PhD, which he specialized in information management, work design, and work performance. Having more than 12 years of experience with more than 40 article publication in the field of library science and information management, Dr. Faizal has been conferred numerous awards. One of the most prestigious awards that he has received is the Malaysia Aspiring Librarian Award in 2015. Due to his excellent achievement, he has been appointed as the Vice President too for the Librarian Association of Malaysia from 2019 until 2022, the chairman for this special disabled user in library from 2016 until present, and Malaysia representative to Southeast Asian Librarian Leadership Convergence from 2021 until present. We are privileged to have you with us today. Without any further delay, let us welcome our moderator, Dr. Muhammad Faizal Hamzah, to introduce our speakers and conduct this session. Please welcome.
From US and Malaysia perspective. I hope all of you are doing well and already take your breakfast. Now I would like to invite our speakers for today's session, Ms. Emily and Dr. Gus. Like this. This knowledge sharing session is also broadcasted live from National Library YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, let me introduce our panel for today, knowledge sharing session. A very short introduction actually. Our first speaker for today is Emily Drabinsky, LAA President-elect. Emily Drabinsky is Critical Pedagogy Librarian and Associate Professor at the Graduate Center, City University of New York. Our second speaker is Dr. Ghazali. He is President of Librarian Associations of Malaysia. Or you can write your question in YouTube channel, National Library YouTube channel. I will try my best to read it. We will have a Q&A session right after the session, right after the end of our live. Can you share with us your education background, experience, and perhaps your highlight of your career? Emily, you can start first.
Sure. So I have been a librarian for 22 years. The bulk of that has been at academic libraries. My first job was at a small library where I was one of a handful of maybe 6 librarians, and learned everything soup to nuts about the library. When you're one of only a few, you learn everything from how to you shelve books, you catalog books, you preserve books, and you discard books. But most of my career has been spent as a teacher, librarian, helping students.
All right, Dr. Gus.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning to all. As for me, my career-wise has been in corporate sector. I shared with Emily today. I started out with Securities Commission, a regulator, for 3 years. Then I moved to a telco, Telecom Malaysia, for 3 years. Then I was invited to join Multimedia Development Corporation, also stayed there for 3 years. Then I was invited to join the central bank here, so 13 years with the bank. From between the librarianship, I ended up with knowledge management as the big picture to the whole thing. So if you ask me about the highlight, is working with Bank Negara, a national central bank of Malaysia, is that the establishment center equipped with the building, not just system and wide about knowledge management center in Central Bank of Malaysia.
All right. Eager to ask this question yesterday actually. What is pedagogy librarian actually, Emily?
That's a good question. We rely on technologies, right? And librarians, if you look at history, are at the forefront of every technological change, right? We were there when the index card started to be used, and we were there when the index card changed to a CD-ROM or a punch card and to a database, right? Like, we're really quite technologically forward as a profession, even though we have this reputation for not being. It's about telling that story, I think, a little more effectively. But I think we need to not be afraid of new technology, but instead look at what ChatGPT can't do. And what it can't do is help a person frame their question. So if I ask it, what time is the movie playing, it's very effective at that. But if I'm a student, say, and I can you help me understand the history of, the book in Malaysia and print culture, like, it can't answer those questions, and those are questions that we can only. So I think we'll do less of the ready reference work and more of the in-depth sort of inquiry support. So I see a great future for us there, looking at where the technology fails and trying to insert ourselves there.
Interesting, Dr. Gus. If you've done what they say, if you can't fight them, join them. So what do you think about the technologies, the rapid growth of the technologies? Okay. I believe with the use of, with the advance of the technologies, people can use software to do an article for 1 minute, 2 minutes, just title, and they put anything keyword and they will run it to you. So it will replace our service actually, to advise people to get information, to use gazetteer, to use almanacs.
Okay, one, throughout my career, from the day I joined library school, my colleague, my friend, been telling me, you're going to be a slave in next 2 years, because technology. But I'm still around here.
Here you are.
Still use it. Here we are. talking about. No. Technology is just like other tools, that something you need to know. First, as I said before, you need to understand what technology means to us, and make that technology works for us and all that. Yes, we're going to have a lot of threats, that. But unless we understand that technology, blockchain or whatever it is, unless we understand that, we cannot really use that technology fully to our benefit, even to our customer. You need to understand. Throughout my life, I've been introduced to technology. The changes that I've been that I have experienced with technology. With no internet, now suddenly internet. Now we have website. Now you need to do coding, building website. And all this today, I'm still around. But the point is, I'm trying to make is you need to understand what technology is, what technology can do. For example, we have makerspace now in most library. What is that makerspace actually? What is makerspace? Okay. In the context of our community, what is it? To me, it's opportunity. We are opening up minds to the possibility to the young one. Even in a rural library, they don't understand that completely. They think they're small. Suddenly with internet, makerspace, hey, my world is the whole world. I can build a website, I can do things, Google, whatever it is. Then my market also to this community is the whole world. So once we understand that ability of technology, then we can work around and with the technology, and we can be part of technology. In fact, now most of us transcend along the way. Dr. Faisal is talking, is that replacing our work? Yes. Now, our work is strategic and operational. Technology can take the whole part of that operational that can give us more time to do on the strategic issue. I'm for that. If the technology can do cataloging, wonderful. Let's literally do cataloging. We'll just put inside the strategic bit part of it. But we can spend a lot more time on the strategy issue, addressing community needs and all that. And I tend to look at that way. That's how I survived the world of technology until today.
All right. Before we proceed, if you guys have any question, you can raise your hand, or you can write in a piece of paper, and then I can read it for you. Okay? Organizer, if you can send them a piece of paper, or you can raise your hand. All right? Okay. Emily, how frequent librarians in US appear in mass media?
Never.
Never?
Never. And when we do appear, we're that kind of figure. Yes, I just finished reading a novel called The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. It was a bestseller in the US.
Wow.
Did you read? Oh, yeah. And so it was the first representation of a librarian that I'd read in a long time. It's a really beautiful book. But yeah, we are not, we're not represented in mass media. We're not on.
That we're trying to get really good lead or a good line to the media, main media and all that. But at the same time now with technology today, we can create our own media. One thing, I just came back from Indonesia, visit Harbour Library. Their library now has podcast studio. One podcast studio. I think we have a lot, but I have not seen that we have any podcast studio. Podcast studio is another way that we can create our own broadcasting for the community. And then if, let's say, every state we have a broadcast, every library has a broadcast. It's not that difficult, it's not expensive thing to have that set up. Let's say we have that broadcasting and we'll broadcast it to our community. We have a voice already. People beginning to now can start to understand us, our work, and we can understand them better. That's another thing that technology that they can help us actually. Okay, yes. Apart from that, we need all of us need to take that part, to take our role, to that start to write, okay, and publish. Don't worry about whatever it is. We're gonna have, as a session we have so many programs about writing or whatever. Now we need the material. So when we have that, we can help you with the publishing and more than that actually.
All right. Emily, in US, does the government provide a special policy or perhaps a written law to encourage librarians to reach out, to help others, rural communities, or to provide certain specific inclusive service to our user, US?
Yes, and mostly around broadband internet access, expanding the internet to communities. And so we have something called E-rate, which is a special rate for public libraries in rural communities. So they pay, so the internet access is subsidized. And we also have grants for expanding broadband access that came from the pandemic, right? What we learned from the pandemic is that the difference between thriving during that time and really suffering in many ways was access to the internet. So the government has rolled out new subsidies, and how do you get people aware of that support, which people can apply for on their own home internet bills, and that's been running through the state libraries as well. So mostly the federal legislation and funding is around access to the internet. And I think the government rightly sees that the library is the best mechanism for distributing that support.
Interesting. Dr. Gus, in your opinion, what are the value factors that can contribute towards the inspiration as libraries as connector? Inspirations.
Wow, that one tough. I've been going around to libraries in Malaysia. The thing that I discovered is that the successful library or manager of the library actually the one that is passionate, not just about the work, actually passionate about the community they serve, understand. Passionate, once you're passionate, you will not see barriers. You not see wall in front of you. That's the good thing. So I've seen a number of us doing a good thing in libraries and those that are passionate. Just imagine if you're passionate about this thing and then you couple with other things collaboratively and all that, it'll be a wonderful world and we can do even more moving forward. So the other part that I discover about these people, actually, the way they collaborate with others is, it's so huge that they don't even consider it like a second nature to them, doing on all these things. So the other part of this is this. We have a lot of lessons that happen around us that we need to share more. Okay? Unless we talk among us, we work collaboratively, we say that we are not sharing. No, let's understand each other. If we just group among us, let's have like monthly session talking about our work, you can find. So a lot of people understand the success and want to help, will come. So a lot of people give grant now. Suddenly, their small library, last time I went there, actually, it was given a grant to build a bigger library. So that's what happened if you're passionate about society and all that. So to me, that inspiration is around us. It's not about something standing here saying that, oh, you need to be inspired. No. Go out, visit among us and talk among us a little bit more, and then we can understand better.
All right. Our next question is from Shamsina, actually. How to measure the return on investment when we do social network or librarians as connector, Emily?
It's very difficult to measure, right? And I think of this in two tracks. First, that we want always to be working to change policies that require that, right? Mm-hmm. That require us to measure our value. Mm-hmm. Another thing is to look at different things that we can count that are meaningful to us. So Ricky Panzalan, who is a scholar from the Philippines who's now working at the University of Michigan, has written about measuring outcomes in archives. So people can come to the archives, find information about their lives, about their heritage, about their families, and have an emotional reaction and connection to the space. So could we count that emotional reaction that by gathering stories from people who are using our services? So I think ROI for those kinds of qualitative things requires our patrons, our users, our customers to be part of that storytelling alongside us.
Dr. Gus, how to measure our return on investment?
You can, if you want, but there's a lot of work. Imagine I'm in a central bank working with accountants, economists, and lawyers. The first thing they ask is, you present any proposal, they ask what is ROI. And they want the ROI in terms of ringgit Malaysia, US dollar, whatever is the currency. Okay, just imagine that. So yes, you can do that. You go to the retail, you can develop whatever cost accounting. You can go down to retail, opportunity cost, whatever. I don't want to talk about that at length, but yes, you can if you want to. But the other part it is what I've discovered through my going around visiting libraries, small and big, in that we have created impacts, social, economic impact, that's not accounted for in our report. Maybe it's time, as I was suggesting, I think we were talking about the SDFC, it's time for us to develop a new framework how to measure ourselves. One of the things that we can include is in our measurement framework, part of it is we need to tell this story. We need to get this people to tell this story, a new narrative of impact. This has been done by Indonesian. They published a book that's given to me when I was there, measuring impact, measuring outcome based on these stories and all that. So they published a book, Impact to the Shakti, because they're so very big in social inclusion. We have that already, mind you, no matter where you are, academic library.
I think looking at what your community needs, I think you connect as you look at what people need and then think creatively about how you can meet that need.
Dr. Gus?
Well, I would love to go to visit the rural library. Definitely, I'm going to do that again when I'm not done Malaysia. So the reason I love is that there's so many things that I find that we have done and not being talked about. You know, that's a pity on us now. This thing, the good thing that we've done. So those in the village library, as a connector, you have so many opportunities. As what we've been saying, Emily been saying, you need to understand your community, the needs, the issue. We definitely, I have seen result, proven action being done. We are actually a solution to a social problem of the community. We are. We have that. So, no, you can do a lot more of that if you understand the issue of your community. No. I mean, this morning we're talking about what I call a social issue avoidance. Potentially, if you provide a good service, you're going to avoid a person, a small boy, a kid from turning into somebody that, anti-society group, a drug addict, whatever it is. So, yes, we are doing that. So look at our community, regardless what's the community, academic or whatever it is. If you understand, we can be more beneficial and can do a lot more. And in fact, I can very sure and guarantee you have not enough work. You would spend doing things that you love for the community.
All right. We have questions from the floor. The first question is, the digitization era, we can see a lot of changing of the roles of librarians. Librarians now play a role as content manager. So we can share the best, can you share the best practice or experience on how we can handle digital content in terms of cataloging or in terms of content sharing and knowledge sharing program? Do you have any comment on that?
That's a very big question, and I don't have a great answer for it. I think we're still trying to figure it out ourselves. Some of the bigger, well-resourced universities in the United States have very good, strong digitization programs and digital asset management programs. I don't work for a university like that, and so we are probably like you trying to figure out the priorities around what materials we're going to digitize and how we're going to catalog them. We were talking yesterday about the sort of future of the academic library, and I do think making sure our digitization efforts are around unique and distinctive special collections that are that sort of put us on the map and make us different from all other libraries. That has to be the focus. At CUNY, we're digitizing actively materials related to student activism in the history of the college, right? Those are materials that haven't been digitized elsewhere. But in terms of what's a content management system that we can afford that sustainably, that's a constant question. And if you have answers, I'll take them.
Okay. Dr. Gus?
Well, I share the same view as Emily. But to me, let me give this perspective. I survived throughout my career is because the 3 years what I've learned, the 3 years that I've learned about librarianship. What does that mean? I mean, the core, the knowledge, the competency that we have actually, if you understand our capability properly, you can apply that no matter where you are, in whatever environment. Trust me. Cataloging, research skill, and all that. Okay, that's one perspective. No matter where you go, if you understand that competency that you have, is very huge. That can carry you anywhere you want. The only thing is you add the first question just now. You need to be more vocal, visible, talkative. What's the word that missed my mind? Never mind. I mean, you're a bit more outgoing with that. But the competency can carry you a lot away. The reason I'm saying this is that talking about technology, yes, technology is just a tool. If you understand, you can use technology to our benefit. I remember the days when I was at Central Bank of Malaysia, technology. That's why now, in system, most now is interactive system. It's not just one way now today. Because your user, when they search the catalog, they can actually, that catalog can link it to other resources through LinkedIn and all that, through linking resources or whatever. So that one piece of catalog is actually, it's not a standalone, it's not dead. I mean, it's alive because of conversation. It can link you to other people. Normally, cataloging deal with book. No, I said, introduce that link to the person or expert in that field. So we create a link of a person in that catalog to somebody, first to the writer, emails or whatever, then to the subject, like you have a lot of social media write-up, right? Chat, whatever, pertaining to subject, create link. So that's to me a conversation. So that's how you can further enrich our work, cataloging and all.
All right. I would like to add actually, as a cataloger, you have to make sure the copyright level of each of the materials before we digitize our materials in our library. But it's a good idea to digitize all materials in library because most of us are moving towards digital library or hybrid library. We have one more question from our audience. Library service for disabled people. Perhaps, Emily, can you share the best practice that can create the impact to the society, especially for those who are people with disabled? Emily?
I mean, I think when we're working with disabled library users, the same principles that we apply to any service, come into play. So thinking about what technology exists to equalize access to information. And so for everything from the Kurzweil reader that we've had in our libraries for at least in the US for a very long time, to making sure that we're asking, when we're digitizing materials, we're keeping up with best practices for making those materials accessible. And it's a lot to keep up with. I do think we need staffing to do that work, right? It has to be someone's, if we care about it, we have to have someone in the library whose job it is to stay on top of what new technologies do to access, right? And everything from making sure that we provide alternative image description in our resources online to making our PDFs readable by people with disabilities, and then making sure that the space we have is accessible, right? So we often, I think about it, we often have like a little ledge that you have to step up over, right? And like thinking about who is impacted by that little ledge, and it's not just people in wheelchairs, it's people pushing strollers, it's people who have mobility difficulties, people on bicycles, people on roller skates, right? Like everybody needs to be able to access the library, and when we focus on what disabled users need, it often expands access for everyone.
Is there any accessible audit in US?
Accessible
Audit to check whether
Oh,
the building
oh,
is
an audit. Yes, there are sort of best practice policy documents, and the American Library Association just hired someone whose job it will be to develop tools for doing an accessibility audit for digital materials. So that's forthcoming, I think.
Dr. Gus, how accessible, inclusive libraries in Malaysia?
I think the best person to answer is yourself. You're on there. Well, not to put Dr. Faza in the spot. Generally, we are, but we need to do more. We are accessible. Now, highlighting the fact that our colleague in the south, particularly people that at UTM, they're now having a collaborative project producing braille material for the Sati. So they just got a grant, a machine, all that. They are doing transferring material into braille. We're doing a bit of that. I think that recently there's a talk in our Pustakawan, our chat room, talking about this as well. Now publishers, because of the Marrakesh Treaty now, looking back into this publishing, and more libraries actually could have that capability of producing material, such material like braille and all that. So our colleague in the south at UTM basically already starting on that, and I figure UM also have that facility and all that. Say that part. In terms of accessibility itself, we need to do. We can do more actually.
All right. We have one question from our audience. Mrs. Begum, do you have mic with you?
Yeah.
All right.
Hello. I just want to wondering in US especially, because I have read books on world person librarianship, for example, and I also saw in ALA website that a library of Richland Library, for example, they have this what we call as a social worker and librarian as a BFF, for example. They are doing all the community connectors, if I'm not mistaken. And I know that we need to serve our patron, especially our patron who are in the crisis, who have mental health or homeless or something like that. Because we have homeless patron here, and I just want to know how it's work. Is it the social worker? They have a center there at the library, or you have any agreement between the social worker department and the library?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still not that common to have the social worker in the library. But I think there's an increasing recognition that the library is the space that is sort of most central to connecting people to social resources. That said, the library can't be everything to everyone, right? And so if we want to do that kind of community connection work, like I'm a librarian, and it's not that I only shelf books, but I do shelf books, right? And that's important also, and I have a role to play in sort of the traditional selection, acquisition, description, circulation, preservation role that we play as librarians. So in order to do that kind of whole person librarianship, we need supports that could be more librarians who have sort of more awareness, but social workers too, because they have a different set of expertise and they have a different set of connections to state resources. So in Richland, the social worker, I was at Richland Library a couple months ago, and I think that the social worker just has an office, the way a librarian would have an office at the library, and serve at a desk, the same way a librarian would serve at a desk. So in an academic library, we were talking yesterday, I think, about putting the writing center, like if you, this commons model where you put the writing center in the library and, you know, the tutoring center, all the academic supports inside the same place, which makes it for the student like a one-stop shop. So the library, because we're one of the only open, accessible places with light, heater or AC, heater, aircon, and a comfort room, right? That the homeless population comes in and uses the library, which makes total sense. But in order to serve that population most effectively, we need people who are in the library who are trained to do that. So hence the social work model. But I think it's still very rare in the United States. But Richland does it really well, and I think it's a model for sure.
All right. We have one more question from our audience.
Hello, my name is Anis from National Library of Malaysia. I have one question. As mentioned before, of course, great libraries, the one that offer great community services, programs, boost community activities and economy and so on. But somehow, sometimes we are still not popular. So any quick win action that can we do in order to be more alive? Thank you.
More popular meaning people don't come? Yeah. Yes, I remember my first program. I worked at the public library when I was in library school, and my first program, I even had donuts to try to lure kids in, but nobody showed up to the program. It was very, sad. But I think like that, it's like I think about it in academic libraries, that people often won't come to me, the librarian, but if their professor, who they have a relationship with, values the library, they'll come that route. So I think it's not only making connections with our patrons, but making connections with people who have connections, right? And so who's the point guard of the middle school or the high school community, finding that person and making them a library champion, right? So who is the leader in the community who, if they come to the library, everybody comes to the library. If there's somebody who, when they throw a party, everybody comes, right? Whoever that person is in your community, making that person a library champion, I think is really crucial. And then food, having food at the event. Yeah. It's like trick number one.
Emily used the analogy of basketball, point guard. The point guard is just like in football, it's like a midfield who control the balls and all that, distribute the ball. That's the point guard.
Oh, thank you.
So that we understand. So I totally agree with Emily on that, actually. Most of the user, if you really give something the community need, that's no issue. Another thing that I found out, the good thing that we have done is we have created a lot of strategic partners, strategic partners. This is sometimes is somebody influence that have that connection that you need, That's another part. Creating strategic partnership, relationships is also important in our work.
All right. Do we have another question from our floor? All right. Never mind. We have one last question before we end our sessions. Actually, it's for Dr. Gas. It's from Facebook. What is your vision for future librarians in Malaysia?
In general?
I like a nice small question to finish things up.
Future of librarian. It's up to us. As I said just now, talking about myself, I survived from the day that people have been telling me I'm going to be obsolete, especially when I start to talk about knowledge management, where I share knowledge freely, freely. A person, my friend asked me, actually, are you not afraid that you're going to be obsolete tomorrow? Because you shared everything. So I'm not worried because one, that knowledge is contextual. You cannot just take whatever I share with you and plunk it into a negotiation and expect it to happen. Because there's a lot of dynamic, social, cultural issue that you need to manage that as well. Same thing with us. As I said just now, the 3 years or 4 years that we learned at UiTM, whatever library school that you went, if you go back into that skill set, you could survive anything. So that's one. So the issue is I actually adapt. Okay. The thing that I'm very sure of, that librarian, I think librarian, they're very adaptable. The case in point is the pandemic. So for 3 months, First 3 months, we didn't know what to do. Suddenly, when we understand, when we react, we actually sort of like take the social media wave to a certain extent with coverage and all that. So that's us actually. So build on top of that competency. So the future, again, coming back to the future, whatever technology is coming, is still good for us that we need to adapt to the whole thing, say where, but we're going to be still relevant. That I can guarantee you. My example alone, I can say you can say relevant. The only thing, as we discussed this morning, you understand your need, really need to understand your stakeholders, your users, your community. You need to understand our capability. You need to understand technology, although you're not good at technology, but you need to understand what they're good, the bad thing, the pro and con of that technology, and move from that. So our future, to answer that question, is good, and a lot depend on us. If we do not react quickly, yes, it can be on the negative side. Maybe it take a longer time for us to pick up and all that. But if you're really adaptive, really reactive to a certain extent, of course we need to be strategic. We cannot always be reactive. We always be strategic. Looking at the environment, we can do a lot more. We can survive. Library will still around. Even today, people are still building libraries around the world. Selangor, that thing gone already. They have planned to build several more libraries in Shah Alam and all that. Library still will be built, but the way we organize, you check the news on the library still being valued and all that. People still, despite people saying e-book, people still holding book on the train. Answer everybody on the train reading books, not iPad, whatever, still exists. So yes, I'm very sure of that.
All right. So as a conclusion, can Emily and Dr. Gus give a wrap up for our topic? Librarians as a connector to our community, Emily?
We connect people to resources. That's what librarians have always done. We are the best people positioned to do that work in our communities. And I agree, the future is what we make of it. Yeah. So I'm grateful for the time today to talk with you.
Yeah, Dr. Gus? Or maybe I just wrap up this way. Whatever that we have been said, discussed, one, we have to make that knowledge work for our community. Okay? What we know, that knowledge, especially what we have in the library, works for our community. Second, maybe I have been talking this all over. We need to work collaboratively,
yes,
vertically, horizontally. And that part of horizontal vertical is internalization. That's why I'm glad that Emily here today, actually. So we need to understand, work closer. Now with technology, we can even closer. We can have meetings through Zoom and whatever. So that very important. Then no matter what, we need to work collaboratively across the board. The other part, last part maybe, is that we need to have a new measurement framework for ourselves. Like I said just now, I've seen a lot of impact, social and economic impact we have created is not reported properly. Maybe we need to go narrative way. Maybe that's one way to start, or maybe that's another thing. If you want to really calculate ROI, you can, but you need to go deeper and all that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much to our panel for giving us such informative and amazing explanation on a current issue related to librarians and libraries. That's all from us. Hand over back to our organizer.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad Faizal Hamzah, for bringing us to a very interesting and insightful session today. For that, kindly I invite both panelists and moderator to return to their seats. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite all of you to remain seated for a group photo session. Thank you. Members of floor, please stand up for a group photo session. Start from second line. Okay, smile. Our signature, please, L for library and literacy. Okay, thank you for your cooperation. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as the saying goes, to every beginning there is an ending. And now we have come to our end of the program. We would like to thank our distinguished guests for gracing the ceremony. Now we would like to invite all distinguished guests to a reception and tour of the National Library of Malaysia. Everyone is also invited to a reception. Before we part, on behalf of the organizing community, I would like to express my utmost gratitude to all the distinguished guests and members of Floors for making this event a success. Till we meet again, and have a pleasant day. Thank you.
Awal Tuhan ialah membaca, menuntut ilmu di seluruh budaya.
Inilah teladan sepanjang masa, gayakan hidup dengan membaca. Apalah nama andai tanpa ilmu, apalah mahkota bermatanya palsu. Tanpa membaca cacatlah minda, tanpa ilmu kemanalah kita. Jika ilmu penuh di dada, bila bergaya dengan membaca.
Dunia sempit menjadi luas, tempat kegayaan jarak terbatas. Negara yang kecil, tinggi martabat, kerana ilmu negara berdaulat.
Mari kawan, kita membaca. Mari silakan timba ilmu dengan membaca. Inilah perjuangan, sambutlah seruan. Jadikan membaca gaya wawasan. Everybody take a book and read to gain knowledge. Everyone has to read. Let's reach out, open up your mind. Let's make reading a lifestyle of wawasan. Mari kawan, kita membaca. Mari silakan timba ilmu dengan membaca. Inilah perjuangan, sambutlah seruan. Jadikan membaca gaya wawasan. Everybody take a book and read to gain knowledge. Everyone has to read. Let's reach out, open up your mind. Let's make reading dan membaca. Inilah perjuangan, sambutlah seruan. Jadikan membaca gaya wawasan.
Andai-andai halang kebukuan, bacalah sampai pandai buku-buku berbagai ilmu. Santang lemak manis, santang pelaku muda, jangan anak menangis. Kalau ingat